Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm Zoe, the community manager at Crowdfunder, and tonight we're going to be looking at how to raise £5,000 in just 5 days using Crowdfunder UK. Before we get started with the main body of content, there's just a little bit of housekeeping to go through. So we have allowed an hour for this session, and that does include time for a Q&A as well towards the end. So please do use the chat box. I've put a couple of messages in for you already. If you would like to use that box to please add any questions that crop up throughout this evening's session, we'll get around to answering as many of those as we possibly can. Now, if you find that you have any issues with your internet connection, the best thing to do is just leave the webinar, so exit the webinar and then use the link that you would have received in your email from Zoom to jump back on into the live room. You might find, however, that you've lost any of the previous chat in the chat box, so just pop a message in there and I can bring you back up to speed. We are recording the whole session as well. Don't worry, you're not going to feature in the recording, but we will make sure that we send that through to you as part of a follow-up email with all of the different resources that we signpost you to this evening as well. If you find that you can't see the entirety of the slide because my video is sitting over the top of it for whatever reason, if you head to the top right of your screen, you should be able to select the view and you should be able to choose side by side speaker view, and that's going to remove my video from the top of the slide. Okay, I can see a lot of you using the chatbot box, which is brilliant to see so many of you interacting in there. Do try and use that throughout the session. We want to keep it as interactive as possible. And as I mentioned, any questions, pop them in there and I'll be sure to check in with that throughout the course of this evening's session. Okay, so for some of you on the call today, you may be well aware of crowdfunding as a concept. You may have used Crowdfunder UK before. For those of you that aren't aware of the concept of crowdfunding as a way of fundraising, essentially it's going out to your crowd or your network, your community of people around you in order to generate donations and pledges to raise money to get your idea or your project off the ground. So Crowdfunder UK was set up around 14 years ago now, with the basis of tackling society's challenges by making ideas happen. So really putting the power back into communities to have positive impact and benefit those individuals, those beneficiaries around them. So just a little bit of numbers before we get into this evening's content fully. When it comes to the amounts that have been raised over that time, Crowdfunder has supported more than 300 projects adding each day, which is huge amounts of projects, and it's supported them in raising more than £407 million collectively over that time. A lot of that will be being raised by kind of grassroots organisations, really community-focused organisations, but anybody that has a fundraising need can actually use Crowdfunder UK in order to raise money, whether that's a startup business, a social enterprise, charity, an individual. There are all sorts of different projects that come through the platform, and we always recommend that you actually take a look and kind of use the explore function on our platform to see who has successfully crowdfunded around you, kind of in your location. You may well be surprised, and also within your sector or with similar project aims to yours. It's always good to get some inspiration from those that have come before you, and if there is someone local to you, go and speak to them and get some kind of first-hand advice as well from someone that's done it successfully. Most project owners are more than happy to talk about their experience and encourage others to use this platform in order to raise the money that they need. We also have a really exciting offer, which is our extra funding offer. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as the session goes on. But essentially, it's us partnering with different organisations, both nationally and regionally, to offer match funding to eligible projects. And throughout the time we've been doing this, we've managed to help to distribute more than £33.5 million to eligible projects as well. And it can be a really great way to boost your fundraising. So if you have a fundraising need and you're eligible for one of these pots of money, always put in an application via your crowdfunding page, because you never know, you could be receiving a really great boost towards your fundraising goals. Okay. In terms of using the platform then, what it can you do on Crowdfunder UK? How can you actually raise money in this way? So for ourselves with our platform, there are different ways in which you can successfully raise money towards getting your project off the ground and happening. So you could run a donations-led crowdfunding campaign, and that is in its kind of purest form. So you're just putting a page together, you're going out there to your crowd and you're asking them to make donations directly to your campaign page. It can be a simple way of fundraising. It can be fast and it's very trusted. People are quite used to seeing that now within the fundraising space, kind of a digital fundraising page that people can donate to. What we offer as well, which is number 2 here, which is our rewards-based crowdfunding. And what that does is essentially takes that donations-led campaign page, but gives you the ability to add rewards. And by a reward, we're thinking about anything that you have capacity to offer as an organization. We are thinking about reaching out to the local business community to see if they might gift something that you could list on your page. And it's a great way to incentivize people's giving. You are giving something back to your supporters for the money that they're donating to your page. Often this will be things like goods and services, products, maybe if you're a business. It could be merchandise. It could be things like team building days, overnight stays at local hotels. It could be, discounted tickets to a local attraction. So it's all about trying to source engaging and creative rewards, just like you might have done if you'd been holding an in-person raffle in terms of traditional fundraising. However, rather than kind of having that in-person raffle, you're listing all of those different items and services and products onto your campaign page at specific price points so that that's going to engage your audience and really incentivize them giving to your page in order to claim one of these exciting rewards. Now, going back to the more of a traditional kind of raffle element, we also give you the ability to run prize draws. So you can have an online prize draw through Crowdfunder UK. And that can be a really great way to have an exciting fundraising activity. It can be super impactful because you can do these over a short amount of time. It can be very inclusive as well. If you've got a low price point for your ticket entry, you can actually offer something by way of a really exciting prize, whereas traditionally, again, you might think of auctioning that off or offering it to the highest bidder. This actually makes it really inclusive and accessible for all of your community to get behind you, as they are going to be in with a chance of potentially winning this exciting prize. And it's something that you see more and more these days as well in the digital space. You often see them crop up on social media. Different businesses and organizations are running these online prize draws pretty regularly and seeing really great return and great results from them as well. The other thing that you can do is have other people fundraise for you. So you can expand your reach by doing this. You can mobilize your community and really amplify your message. It's a great way, if you have capacity, to maybe set a fundraising challenge and actually have all of the different groups within your community get involved and collaboratively raise the money that you need. The other thing that you can also do is you can receive regular donations. So if you have an ongoing financial need, an ongoing fundraising need, you can always opt to accept regular donations. So people can give monthly to your ongoing campaign as well. So lots of different ways in which you can raise money on Crowdfunder, many of which can be boosted by the extra funding offer as well that we have. So the match funding that I mentioned, it can really help to amplify the amount of money that you're raising from your crowd. It can again boost that kind of connection. It can really build some credibility as well if you're being supported by one of our funding partners who are predominantly local authorities or large organizations within their sectors. It can really add some value and some credibility to your project and your campaign. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye out to see who you could be matched with when it comes to extra funding. So just quickly on the extra funding offer, then you can see a snapshot of some of the different partners that we work with on this slide. When it comes to the match funding opportunity, we work with a host of different partners, both nationally and regionally. We have more than £10 million available in match funding from our different partners. In terms of being an eligible project, there are a few criteria that our amazing software will work with in order to potentially match your project with one of our partners, maybe multiple partners. And that's based on where you are in the country, so your location, your project aims. So, what is it that you're raising the money for? What are your objectives? What impact are you going to have? And then also the organization type. So, whether you are a limited company, whether you are a social enterprise or a charity or a constituted group, all of this information is gathered when you start putting your campaign page together. You'll also be asked some key questions about your project itself. So, who are you hoping to benefit within the community and those potential project aims? Those are actually a tick box exercise, so really straightforward. If you are matched with any of our funding partners, you can apply for the pots of money through your campaign page. So while it's still in draft in the admin section, so through your project dashboard, they're really simplified application forms to complete. Normally around 10 to 15 minutes per application is all you need. What you can do as well, which is really helpful, is you can actually look at the questions ahead of time. You can create a separate Word document or something similar where you're actually collating all of those answers so that you can copy and paste those into those application forms, especially if you've been matched with a few partners. It just helps with being able to replicate some of those answers that you might need. And you can receive funding from more than one of our partners as well. So again, it can be a really great boost and brilliant momentum for your supporters, so your crowd, to get behind you if they know that all of their donations are potentially going to be doubled or tripled based on what they give you as well. I mentioned their prize draws. So what is a prize draw? Essentially, it's an online competition where your supporters or entrants are going to donate to your campaign for a chance to win a great prize. You do need to have a free entry route to be in line with the kind of gambling laws. You can run them for a few weeks. If you want to, you can run them for a few days. It's completely up to you. They can be a really great way to raise a decent amount of money in a short amount of time. And then the winner would be picked at random, and you're in control of that. And there are lots of different tools that you can use and different softwares that you can use in order to kind of pick a name or a number at random. And it's always good to do that as part of maybe an Instagram Live or a Facebook Live, something where you're creating engagement as well in actually drawing the winner. And any raised funds from your prize draw are transferred directly to your nominated bank account for your organisation. And that is true with any of your campaigns. The money that you raise from any successful campaign, successful prize draw, will be paid out to your nominated bank account, normally within around 5 to 7 working days. Okay, so when it comes to fundraising in this way, the one thing to remember is that it works best when it's a collaborative exercise. It can be done on your own. Absolutely, we see people do it, but I would always recommend that wherever possible, you have people around you that can help you do this. So everyone can help in different ways. So ideally, you're going to have someone heading up the project. So that will be your project leader. And you want to be thinking about your two areas. So out there in the community, helping you build that community and build that crowd. And then also behind the scenes. So as part of the team that are actually building your campaign. So if we look at that team to begin with, if you've got people around you that are great at taking pictures, maybe doing a bit of design, maybe video content, reach out to them and get them on board. There may be somebody within your friend network or professionally that's brilliant at writing content and telling a brilliant story. They will be absolutely invaluable for putting the campaign page together and telling that story with passion and personality. You might have somebody around you that's just great at networking. They are that person who is not shy to go and speak to everybody at the event. You know, they just have that kind of magnetism around them where people want to speak to them and engage with them. They're going to be perfect at networking for you. And then also having somebody who's got a good handle on social media, being able to promote things effectively, understanding, the ways in which you can kind of schedule promotion, the way in which you can share things effectively. Having somebody like that within your team is really effective. And in terms of out there in the community, you want to be thinking about a few different calls to action when you're actually promoting your campaign. So always be thinking about asking people to make a donation. Absolutely, you need to raise the money. But are there people that could also offer a reward? So that might be the local business community. That could also be people within your network who have a hidden skill set, or they have time, they have maybe a side hustle that they do alongside their day-to-day job that could be kind of dressed up as a reward. And what I mean by that is we've often seen things like, teachers offering up their time to do some tutoring at this time of year as it's kind of exam season. Or you might find that actually local mechanic decides that they are going to do a discounted MOT, or an accountant might be doing a self-assessment tax return at a discounted rate for you. I mean, they don't sound particularly exciting in terms of rewards. However, it really is incentivizing people who would be spending their money on those things anyway to spend their money on your campaign page and actually get themselves those services at a bit of a discount. And then you've got all of the wonderful, exciting, creative things that you would be able to offer as well. Also, make sure you're asking people to share that project. So the way that you can build upon your own existing networks is to have people sharing into their own networks. It will organically help to grow your crowd beyond what you have capacity to do as an individual or as an organization. If you can, find a crowdfunding champion. So again, somebody out there in the community who has a bit of influence maybe, or is just that kind of larger than life character that is always at those events, that's always kind of life and soul of whatever's happening in your local community. If you can get them on board to shout about what you're doing, that is brilliant. It might be that it's actually a local celebrity. It could be somebody who is a bit of a kind of sector leader around you that you might be able to reach out to as well. Having that amount of kind of engagement is really important. If you can achieve it, it will just help you to grow your networks. Okay, so what does make a good project page? And this is true for any type of crowdfunding page, whether it's a prize draw, whether it's donations led, rewards led, whether you're getting extra funding on there. You want to think about having a really engaging page that tells a story that's going to resonate with potential supporters. And the way to do that is to have a really nice, clear, exciting headline and a compelling story. So why does your project matter? Fill that page with engaging images and video content if you can. Videos are great because it helps to engage your audience in a short amount of time. So do try and keep it short and snappy. A minute to a minute and a half is ideal. Just letting people know who you are, what you're doing, what you're crowdfunding for, and then how people can help you. So share the project, donate to the project, offer a reward, maybe fundraise for us, all of those calls to action that I mentioned. Make sure you've got a specific fundraising goal and a really transparent budget. So you're going to set your target so people know how much you need to raise. Beyond that, if you can have a section on your page where you're actually detailing what that money is going to go towards, that's really helpful. It just really does signpost to your potential supporters where their money's going to go. And the more transparent you can be, the easier that message is for your supporters to digest. And it's going to make it more likely for them to give because they'll know exactly how that money is going to be spent and the impact that their donation is going to have. And that's a selection of exciting rewards if you've got capacity to do that, and that's something that you're considering with your crowdfunding campaign. We do know that on average, with a donations-led campaign, the average donation is anywhere between kind of 30 to 40 pounds approximately. However, those projects and those campaigns that do have rewards listed, that can jump up to anywhere between kind of 50 to 70 pounds as an average donation. So it really does incentivize people's giving. So do consider offering that if you can. In terms of your network, so much of a successful crowdfunding campaign comes down to understanding your network and your crowd and reaching out to them effectively. And this is done very much in the planning stages of your campaign. So to think about your community as a whole can be quite overwhelming. So what we recommend that you do is start thinking about creating a network map. So you're going to break your audience up into more bite-sized chunks. So you're going to think about friends and family as a group and list everybody within there. Maybe think about your partners. So as an organization, that could be venues that you work with, that could be suppliers, that could be other organizations that you partner with in terms of project delivery. It could be existing members. So that might be members in terms of beneficiaries. That could be people that are on the receiving end of a newsletter. It could be customers. Also think about local sports institutions are great because they've already got that captive audience. So sports organisations, leisure facilities, think about schools, community groups, and then obviously you've got social media as well within that, and other groups. So that's going to be potentially the business community, networking groups that are happening around you. And what you want to do is think about who falls into each one of those groups. And then the next stage is going to be thinking about how do I connect with that group of people effectively? How do I get my message across to that group of people so that the message resonates with them and it's going to incentivize them to get behind the campaign? You may consider creating a network spreadsheet or something similar where you can actually track that, just to make it easier to really keep on top of the promotion that you're doing and how to kind of go back to that throughout the course of the campaign to see what has yielded results and where there might be gaps that you might need to go back over. So you'd think about your different audiences. For example, just this little snapshot here, thinking about your local residents within your community. You might want to join the local Facebook group. The majority of villages, towns, cities these days have those kind of either buy, sell and swap groups or community Facebook pages as well. If you are not on there already, do make sure that you join. You can pop some messages in there. You might reach out to the local press as well and say, this is what we're doing. This is when it's going to launch. Here's a press release. Please, can I rely on you to share that at different points throughout the campaign? And you'd want to keep an eye on the status of that. So making sure that you know what promotion has already happened, what you plan to do, and being able to look back on that throughout the course of the campaign to know, as I say, what's worked, what maybe hasn't, and how you can use that for every single stage to make sure that you are reaching the right people and in the right way. And that will vary. So you can see here with the local primary school that actually going and speaking to them is probably the best way to get that message across. It could be that you host a fundraising event in conjunction with them, and that might mean actually kind of, going and volunteering your time, spending some time with the pupils or with the parents. You could integrate into the PTA WhatsApp groups. Quite often there's different groups, year for each year or for the PTA for the whole school, and emails that go out frequently to parents as well. It could be that in conjunction with that school, you decide to arrange a fundraising day, and actually any money raised on that day goes towards your campaign because it's supporting the local community. So there's lots of different avenues and angles that you can take when it comes to promoting. It is all about understanding who sits within each one of those bubbles, and actually the best way to communicate with them might be completely different to the next group. It could be picking up the phone for friends and family versus an email or a newsletter to existing members, and making sure that whatever message you're conveying to that group resonates with them. Why would they support the campaign? Is it that actually you're going to promote their local business because they're offering a reward? Is it that by doing a fundraising challenge, they're going to really help the local community and they may well be direct beneficiaries of what you're trying to do? Or is it going to be that actually you're building your customer base and everybody that supports you is going to get the first edition of the book that you're trying to publish? So think about your audience and what message will resonate with them the best. Don't be afraid to use a variety of different communication channels as well. One email out to everybody on that whole list of members of your community is probably or definitely not going to yield the same results as making sure that you are using a mixture of these. So don't disregard things like print. That can be really useful. Having flyers or posters that are put up around your local community and in local businesses can be really, really beneficial. you can download a QR code as well. So you can pop that onto any flyers or any leaflets, and people can scan that and go straight to your project page. Things like events as well. So in-person events can be really brilliant for not only raising awareness around what you're doing and creating that engagement and generating pledges, but also building those relationships within your community, which will only strengthen that network going forward. And the idea of crowdfunding is not only generating the money that you need, but also really working together as a community with this collaborative approach to then strengthen that community going forward. So building upon those relationships will only help in the future when maybe there's an additional fundraising need, or maybe there's something that comes up where actually you can work together in partnership to kind of solve that collective issue, whatever it might be. And also it's a great way for you to create this almost digital archive of the impact that you're having. So it can be brilliant for unlocking other potential funding in the future as well, or investment, or showcasing, you know, your ability to raise these funds and have this impact. Okay, so let's get to the nitty-gritty of how are you going to raise that £5,000 in 5 days? And it's such a short amount of time. Ultimately, it comes down to the planning and that network. So you want to set yourself up for success. You want to make sure that ahead of your launch date, so you're going to have a date in mind for your first day of your launch. Ahead of that, you really want to reach out to your core network. So that's going to be everybody that's close to you, professionally and on a personal level. So that's going to be friends and family. That's going to be colleagues, fellow volunteers, anybody that has a real kind of personal vested interest in what you're doing. If you can, secure up to 10% of your overall target from that core network. So many successful projects are heavily supported by people that are close to the project. They will not only get behind the idea, so the campaign and the project itself, but they also get behind the people involved in it. So that's you guys as project owners. So if you can, try and secure that 10%. And then when you launch your campaign, you want to go back to that group of people and say, okay, it's live. We need you to put your donations on today before we can launch it to the public. We need to make sure this looks as if it's on the trajectory to success already. Launching a campaign to the wider public with no amount of money raised is a bit of a red flag, because if I'm seeing it and I'm 4 or 5, 6 steps removed from your organization and your project, and I've just seen it on a local Facebook group, my automatic thought is going to be, why has nobody else supported this so far? Surely there's people closer to this project that would support it if it was credible or valid. So do make sure that you kind of almost have a bit of a soft launch to your core audience, those that are super close to you, and then bit by bit, you're going to reach out to that wider audience. You need to keep momentum. So shouting out about milestones, shouting out about achievements, shouting out key supporters and businesses that you're working with that have supported you with rewards is going to help to build that motivation and keep that momentum going. Focus on featuring those rewards and adding more as the campaign progresses. So you can always add rewards onto your page. So it can be a great thing to do to kind of drop a new reward each day and then feature it at the top of your promotion, shout out the local business, get them to shout out your campaign as well. So it's mutually beneficial marketing and promotion. That's how you're going to reach those wider audiences. Set achievable milestones for each day, maybe even each hour. Hitting these will really not only help you to create that ultimate success, but it will give you that boost, you know, in bite-sized chunks throughout the day, throughout the course of each day as well. So let's take that day one then. That's going to be your soft launch day. You're going to aim to raise around £1,200 if you can. So what you're going to do on that day is you're going to go back to your core audience and you're going to drive those early pledges to your campaign. We talked about that 10%. If you can raise 10% from your core audience, that is going to put you in a really great position. So that would be, in this instance, £500. You might have a selection of rewards that help you to do that. It could be that actually the first 5 people that donate £100 to your campaign are going to receive this wonderful reward. And once it's gone, it's gone. So think creatively about how you incentivize those early donations and early pledges. When it comes to then launching to the wider public, which may even be later that day, you want to think about a big kind of shout out about what you're doing, but also make it personal. So a personal story as to why you're crowdfunding. Having that video that you've created for your page can be a really great way to do that. You maybe want to build upon that, but having that person to person interaction, albeit virtually, again, is going to create that human interest point and get people hooked as to why they need to not only look at your page, but donate. So you might be thinking about a campaign video, a team photo maybe, or maybe a selfie with everyone, and then a link to your campaign. Always make sure that when you're doing anything online in terms of promotion, you always link them to your crowdfunding campaign. Make sure that if you're doing generating a press release for the local, press outlet, make sure you include a link to your campaign. The amount of times we've seen some brilliant news coverage and there is no link for people to then follow up and actually make a donation. It's heartbreaking, to be quite honest with you. So do make sure you're always including not only a link to your campaign, but using those hashtags, making sure you're tagging in kind of crowdfunder as well, Crowdfunder UK, any businesses that you have supported you with rewards, any key kind of organizations, and maybe some of those extra funders if you've been lucky to be approved for extra funding as well. Okay, so day 2. We're going to have a general kind of target of approximately £1,000 for that day, just breaking it down to £1,000 each day. Normally, your first day is going to be a bit of a spike, so that's great. So really on that day, you want to encourage people to be sharing your project and highlighting the progress that you've made so far. So, wow, look, we only launched yesterday and we've already raised X amount of money. Help us to keep this momentum. We need to raise £5,000 by the end of this week. So you're going to be thanking those early backers. You're also going to be sharing potentially a personal story as well, whether that's you as a project owner, whether that's a beneficiary, always keeping that human interest point. Again, so whether that's the campaign video or a team photo, as was mentioned previously, if you can put something like a progress bar or a screenshot of the amount raised, really do make it transparent and visible just what's going on with the campaign. The next day, so day 3, you want to be focusing even more on that human interest point. So whatever it is that you're raising money for, there will be a way to communicate that in a way that resonates on that human to human level. So you want to try and reconnect with your audience that you've already tapped into, and you want to also connect with maybe a slightly wider audience. So you're moving away now into those other areas of your network. You want to make sure that you're talking about the difference that funding will make. So that's going to be that kind of impact story. And it could be testimonials. A video testimonial is great if you've got somebody who's benefited from what you've been doing or will benefit from what you're doing in the future if you raise the money. That's really going to help get your message across on a personal level. If you can, I mean, it's great using things like graphics and animation and all of those wonderful things. I wouldn't solely rely on that. I would make sure that you are still integrating some of those kind of personable video testimonials or quotes from people where it's actually coming from somebody who's been through it, who will benefit, even if you're a business and it's a really happy customer, use those testimonials to connect with people. So on day 4, you know that you've got your kind of end goal in sight. You want to really be thinking about getting some fresh eyes on the campaign. So it's a really great time to have that media push. So reaching out to maybe local press, maybe they've already done a bit of a launch kind of shout out for you. Now this is going to be the deadline's approaching. We need everyone to get behind this. That could be press, that could be media in terms of radio. And also that's going to be expanding your networks as well. So you're going to go back to your network map and you're going to look at those slightly wider, so slightly more far removed groups that maybe you've not tapped into as yet. And you want to make sure that you are using those different forms of communication and those different things that is going to incentivize and entice them to give with the messaging to reach out to that group of people. Within all of that, you're going to think about the different calls to action. So you're still on the same message of sharing, donating, claiming a reward, gifting a reward even, and maybe doing some fundraising, and highlighting the urgency as well. You know, the deadline is tomorrow. We've got X amount of money to raise. And again, break it down into achievable milestones. If 20 of you gave X amount of money, or if 50 of you were to claim this wonderful, you know, ticket to this great event that we're going to host, we would hit our target. Make it achievable milestones for your potential supporters. Sometimes talking about the bigger number can make it sound kind of a bit overwhelming and a bit scary, but if you break it down into really achievable chunks, actually somebody might think, well, my £20 is going to make a massive difference here, actually, whereas I didn't really realize that it would only take 20 of us giving £20, kind of that kind of message. And again, if you can, video content is great, maybe behind the scenes of the campaign, you know, filming, a little bit of filming as to what's been going on with you as a group of, you know, project owners and the team behind there. What have you been up to day to day for the last few days? Kind of get that personable message across that this is being done and driven by a group of people to achieve this common goal. And then, of course, that final day is going to be about the countdown. So it's all going to be about bringing in those final pledges, celebrating the achievements so far, and also celebrating the community as a whole that have got behind you. Striking that balance between urgency and gratitude is going to be really key there. So making sure that in all of your messaging, you are expressing the gratitude to those that have supported you so far, and also getting those messages out there for those that have supported you so far, to let them know that kind of the end is in sight and there's still more they can do in terms of sharing and bringing in other donors and other supporters as well. And then maybe some thank you graphics that you can be putting out there, or of course those celebration videos as well of maybe the team once you've hit your target. You can, I should say as well, always overfund your project. So you can have something called a stretch target. So you could hit that 5K in 5 days and go on to raise 6, 7, 10,000 in the next couple of days if you so wish. So you can always have a fundraising goal that you are working towards, so your initial target, and then you can always plan to overfund that as well. And that's a really lovely place to be. And it happens quite a lot. We see lots of people go into their stretch target. So we've got loads and loads of help available to help you actually achieve this. Webinars such as this, different webinars that we run frequently throughout the year. We also have a wonderful knowledge hub, which is full of loads of hints and tips and guides on every single stage of crowdfunding. We've got some great tailored email advice. So when you do sign up for your free to access account, you will be signposted with emails to the various information that we know will help you. We've got some Ask the Expert sessions as well. So these are drop-ins, all done virtually, but you can literally turn up, drop in, ask a question to one of the team, and then head off or stick around and listen to some other questions as well for a bit of peer-to-peer support. So a great way to actually come and speak to members of the crowdfunding team. We've got a wonderful customer support team. They are real people, and they have created the whole of the help centre. So all of their knowledge is in there. Always check there first. But if you do have any questions beyond that, you can always reach out to our customer support team, and they will make sure that they get you to the right people and make sure you get the information that you need. And then we have a live project dashboard. So you can manage all of your campaign from that. You can apply for the extra funding. You can, download supporter details, extend your project, close your project, add more rewards, all of those wonderful things that you can do. So you're in complete control of your campaign. Okay, that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour for you of crowdfunding and the different ways you can use it. Now we've got a nice amount of time for a Q&A. So do feel free to pop some questions into the chat box. I've just seen some coming through, so I will do my best to answer these as more are coming through. Okay, in terms of where you can be crowdfunding from and what you can, what countries you can crowdfund for, you do, in terms of Crowdfunder UK, you do need to have a UK bank account that we can verify. So you do need to make sure that you can verify that account, and that would be your nominated bank account, whether that's as an individual or as your organization or your business. However, you can crowdfund for projects that are happening all around the globe. So the money can be spent anywhere. The only prerequisite really is that you have a UK bank account for the money to be paid out into. One thing I should say as a caveat when it comes to that match funding, just check the criteria and the T's and C's as to what projects they will be supporting and whether they need to be UK based or whether they will support global projects. But that all of that would be available within all of the different funding partner pages. And I will make sure you've got access to that whole extra funding page of the website as well, so I can share that with you. I'm just scrolling back through here to see what questions are coming through. One thing that does come up in terms of how long to run a campaign, we're obviously talking about raising £5,000 in 5 days today. That doesn't mean necessarily that your campaign needs to be only 5 days long. It's a great thing to focus on for the first week of your campaign, but you might have a much bigger target and you might be running it for a much longer amount of time. The one thing I would say is, in terms of duration of a campaign, just be mindful that you really do need to be able to keep the momentum of the campaign going over the duration. So you might find there's a bit of a dip in engagement in the middle, which is not uncommon. You know, people get excited when you launch and they want to back you. They equally get excited towards the end and they can see that the urgency is there and the deadline is looming. So if you've got an incredibly lengthy campaign, you might just want to be more mindful in your planning stages of how you're going to keep that momentum going through what potentially might be a bit of a lull in the middle. And you can do that using that network map and checking back in, adding different rewards or posting updates to your page. You can do that directly to re-engage your supporters as well. Okay. In terms of these questions coming through, do you have to apply as an organisation for match funding, or could you be crowdfunding as an individual for a project? That's a great question. The best thing to do really is to check the extra funding page. And as I said, I will share that with you because our funding partners do vary in the types of organisations and the types of projects that they will support. So it's not necessarily that I can give you the exact answer for that this evening. However, I can definitely signpost you to where you can find out. So if you look at the extra funding page on crowdfunder.co.uk, you'll be able to see all of our active partners, and they do change. We do bring on different funding partners as well. We're forever looking out for funders that would like to come on board with us. So unfortunately, I can't give you the exact answer this evening because they do vary. So predominantly, we're working with funders at the moment that support kind of social enterprises and charities. However, we have just launched a campaign in which startups or female-led startups and female-led businesses that are looking to kind of maybe take on a new direction are being supported as well. So it does change. It's an ever-changing landscape. Okay. Just being asked here about, can I crowdfund for higher education? Absolutely. You can crowdfund for pretty much anything, whether that's something that's a personal cause to you, whether that's covering, you know, higher education costs, research costs, anything. Pretty much as long as it's legal, you can crowdfund for it. The main thing is there an appetite for it? Do you have a crowd of people that you can reach out to in order to bring in those donations? And that's true for any campaign. And actually, it can be a really great low risk way to see if there is an appetite for that, because ultimately it's you putting your word out there and seeing if people want to support it. So I would definitely recommend giving it a go. Absolutely. And the key things that you will need for a successful campaign is an idea that people want to get behind and the ability to reach out to your network and try and grow that network if you can as well. Okay. Yes, I can send round a copy of the slides if you so wish. That's absolutely fine. And yes, we are recording the session. Okay. In terms of kind of one-to-one support, we've got a few people asking about one-to-one support. I would say come along to those Ask the Expert sessions where yes, you're with a group of people, but it's very much kind of an informal chat with myself and a member of the crowdfunding team from different departments, so our kind of in-house experts, and you will get a chance to speak to people directly and ask any questions about any element of crowdfunding and your particular projects as well. Okay, we've had a question coming in about fees. There are fees attached to crowdfunding or kind of digitally fundraising on any platform. We are competitive with those other platforms as well. You can access, in fact, let me stop sharing my screen and I can put some of these links in here for you. So in terms of, let me go back to the extra funding page and I can put that in for you straight away to take a look at, and then I'll also put the fees page. So depending on your organisational structure, there is slightly different funding structure to be mindful of. The one thing to bear in mind is that we do use a third-party payment provider. So all of the transactions that come through to your page, so to your campaign page, will have a transaction fee attached. What happens is essentially when you close your successful campaign, any fees that are attached to the money that's been raised, so any of those transaction fees, any of the potential platform fees, which are not relevant for all crowdfunding campaigns, that's based on your organizational structure. Any fees that are attached to your campaign will be automatically removed at source. Okay, so we will take those fees before we pay the money out to you. So there's no need for you to be kind of paying any fees directly back to Crowdfunder. The money that you receive at the end of your campaign paid into your account is all of the money that you've raised minus any of those fees. It's always a good idea to make sure you familiarize yourself with the fee structure that is applicable to you. That way, when you're setting your target, you might want to consider just adding on a few percent. That way, you know that actually when you close your crowdfunder successfully, although your target might be a little bit more than what you need, that little bit of surplus that you've raised will go to covering those fees. And what you draw down, so what you have in your bank account, is actually the target amount that you need to get the project off the ground. The same can be said for any additional costs that you might incur when crowdfunding. So that might be any promotional materials. It could be the cost of maybe delivering some of those rewards. So have a think about that in the planning stages and maybe set your target and then just add on a little bit more to cover any of those additional costs that you might incur and any of those fees as well. Let me pop the fees page in here for you as well. I will make sure that I send it round with the replay, so you've all got access to that too. But there we are, they're both in the chat box for you as well. Oh, we've got somebody who is a female-led startup. Fabulous. Okay, so we have got a wonderful campaign launching. At the moment, I can put the link for you into the chat box and you'll be able to take a look at that as well. If you know anybody that is fits into the category that may well be interested in crowdfunding for their female-led business, then please, again, do signpost them towards this landing page and they can register their interest and find out more. Okay, so that's going into the chat box too. That's just the final link there. Okay. Yes, you can fundraise for personal causes. Absolutely. We've got one here from Peter that you have been fundraising for Helston Railway. Fabulous. Lots of projects to fund. How often should we run a campaign before supporters get fed up with being asked for money? That's a really good question, and kind of crowd fatigue or donor fatigue comes up quite a lot. I would say the best thing to be thinking about is actually mixing up the ways in which you use the Crowdfunder UK site. So you might find that with a heritage project such as that in Helston with Helston Railway, that it could be that actually one of our extra funding partners would support a donations-led or rewards-led campaign. So that might be your initial focus, to actually run a campaign with potentially a large target, or, you know, a larger target than you might do for, say, your prize draw. But then I'd be thinking about factoring in prize draws, and you could run those monthly. The reason you can do those more effectively and kind of more frequently is actually every time it's slightly different. So yes, you're asking people for money, but they're going to get their hands on a really exciting prize, and that prize could be different each month. And it's something that they then look forward to each month rather than that feeling of, oh, they're asking us for money again. And being in Helston, I'm actually in Cornwall myself. Our Crowdfunder HQ is in Cornwall. We're just in Newquay, one of our HQs, I should say. So I know that you've got some great attractions. You've got some brilliant places around you that if you were kind of savvy and sourced some of those prizes, you've got brilliant attractions, you've got great overnight stays, you've got brilliant hotels. You could really reach out to that community, kind of county-wide almost, and see if you can get some brilliant prizes. And if you can source 10 or 12 of them, that can be one, each month, or pretty much each month for the following year. It depends really on your fundraising need. So when do you actually need this money to be able to do what you need to do? And also your capacity as to how frequent you could run something like that. But I would definitely be looking at kicking it off potentially with a rewards-based campaign, or at least at some point during your fundraising kind of schedule, because you may be eligible for some of that match funding. But I would also mix it up with some prize draws as well. Okay. Let's have a little look back through. We've got a few minutes, but I do want to make sure I cover as much as I can. Okay. We had lots about the recording. Absolutely, there will be loads. There will be a recording going round. Okay, so how successful is crowdfunding for products, or kind of production? We see lots of businesses crowdfund, and it's a great way actually to almost finance the production of things. So I referred to kind of getting a book published at the beginning of the session, but we've also seen people that have raised money to create a line of fashion wear or pottery or items and products. So what you can do is you can offer rewards, which would be the kind of first line of, and that could be an exclusive line. So if you're thinking about merchandise, it could be that actually it's a one-off line of this merchandise that you're hoping to finance for those that have supported your crowdfunding campaign. And then it could be that if you go on to raise X amount more money, that you're able to then look at kind of the next line of that merchandise. It could be that you're an existing business looking to go in a slightly different direction. So then you'd reach out to your existing customer base, or if it's a completely new startup, you could absolutely use it as a marketing tool as much as you do a fundraising tool. It's a brilliant way to actually build a network, which then organically would potentially become a customer base. So it's definitely worth considering it if you're thinking about kind of products, merchandise, services, those types of things as well. Okay. In terms of any questions about the campaign that I've shared, there is actually a webinar coming up in June that's definitely worth attending, for all of you that are interested in that one. All of the details of that particular campaign are on the page that I've shared. I would definitely consider, depending on what your financial need is, I would consider crowdfunding as part of that campaign if it fits within your timeframes, because the incentives are really exciting with that one, and the prize pots are super exciting as well. Okay, I can't see any more kind of direct questions about the session. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reshare my screen for you all, just with a few next steps for you to consider. And then we will wrap up this evening's session. And thank you so much for everybody that's joined me this evening. If you do want to fire a question into the chat box quickly, I can definitely answer it whilst I am here for the next few minutes. I do want to make sure that you've got these next steps. So I mentioned about looking at other projects, seeing what's around you. So again, all of these links will be shared in the follow-up email, but do make friends with that explore page and actually see the different projects that have come before you, whether that's locally to you, whether that's within your sector, whether that's with the similar project aims. I always tend to look at successful projects. You can filter that to successful projects just to see what's worked. However, sometimes it can also be really beneficial to see the projects that haven't reached their goals, that haven't maybe managed to do it as successfully. And that can give you some really good food for thought as to maybe why that hasn't happened. And you'll start to get a feel for the pages, the promotion. You can click through to their social media accounts as well and see what resonates with you as a potential supporter of that campaign. What would you do? What would you do differently? And as I said, reach out to them personally and actually, speak to them. You can contact a project owner through their page, drop them a message, and just see if you can pick their brains as well from somebody who's gone through this experience. Check for any extra funding that you might be eligible for. And then essentially the best thing to be doing, I know that I don't want to say just do it because that is definitely not a tagline from us. That's somebody else's tagline. But do just get started. As I said, it's a free to access account. So until you've actually successfully crowdfunded, there are no fees attached to using our platform. So you can start adding your project, you can start drafting your ideas, you can come back to it time and time again, you can see what match funding you might be eligible for, you can do all of the different things that you might want to do to that campaign to really enhance it and make it super engaging, and when the time is right you can go live with it. I would say give it a go, test the water, and you may well just surprise yourself at how well you've been able to kind of achieve your fundraising goals. Do keep in touch with us as well. So make sure that you're following us on socials, you're shouting it out ourselves and any other organisations that you might be supported by in terms of match funding, any of those other businesses as well that might have supported you with rewards, etc. When you do put things out on socials, it may well get picked up on the radar of Crowdfunder, and it may well get reshared through our marketing team and socials team as well. So it's always worth just making sure you're tagging in people in all of the promotion that you do. And ultimately, take a look at the upcoming events as well. Again, all free to access. Come along and ask us any questions. We're doing some really exciting different sessions coming up over the coming weeks and coming months, and we'd love to have you back, and we'd love to support you as best we can to reach your fundraising goals and get you raising at least £5,000 in 5 days. So thank you so much for joining me this evening. I'll be sure to share the recording and the follow-up email with you as soon as possible. So do keep an eye on your inboxes as well. And we really do look forward to watching you all launch on the platform and raise the money that you need to. And we are here to support you every step of the way. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening.